What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, September 5th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:10 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Venezuela. So yesterday, two Venezuelan F-16s buzzed a U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Jason Dunham, in international waters. The U.S. Department of Defense has confirmed that this occurred yesterday and called it highly provocative. So here we have the official announcement from the U.S. military, the Department of Defense, and they wrote here today, two Maduro regime military aircraft flew near a U.S. Navy vessel in international waters. This highly provocative move was designed to interfere with our counter-narco-terror operations. The cartel running Venezuela is strongly advised not to pursue any further effort to obstruct, deter, or interfere with counter-narcotics and counter-terror operations carried out by the U.S. military. So you notice they call the cartel running Venezuela. So they're lumping in Maduro and the Maduro regime into the cartel. Okay? This is very, very serious, guys. And also, we're hearing that by the end of next week, the U.S. Air Force will deploy 10 F-35'S to Puerto Rico for the purpose of using them in operations against drug cartels. This was reported by Reuters today. Okay, so 10 F-35's going to Puerto Rico, and they will be using them against the so-called cartels. Now, what I think the U.S. is doing here is they're trying to provoke Venezuela. They're trying to provoke the Maduro regime by striking the cartels and going after cartels in Venezuela, and then once Maduro responds back, then that will justify the full force of the U.S. military to be unleashed against the Maduro regime. Now, I want to remind you guys that Maduro is not a good guy. He's a socialist, a communist. He's friendly with China. Russia and China have deployed weapons in Venezuela, missile launchers, and they also have a submarine base there. Okay, Maduro is not our friend. He is a socialist. He's run Venezuela into the ground. Okay, Venezuela is a dump, unfortunately, unsafe dump because of Maduro. And overnight, last night, Maduro announced the launch of the first activation cycle of the Venezuelan militia. For the first time in the country's history, communal militia units will be deployed across all 5,336 communal circuits nationwide. Okay, so Maduro has activated the militia. Okay, this is very, very serious. And the U.S. is holding a massive amphibious landing drill in Puerto Rico right now, just 800 kilometers away from Venezuela. 4,000 Marines aboard the USS Iwo Jima and two amphibious transport docks are involved, supported by an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. So here we actually have satellite footage of the U.S. Navy presence in the Caribbean, and you can see the date here, September the 3rd. We have a San Antonio class ship here. We have a USS Iwo Jima amphibious landing ship, an Arleigh Burke destroyer, and another San Antonio class ship. Okay, and this is just 159 miles south of Puerto Rico. And last night, for some reason, there were a large amount of U.S. nuclear codes transmitted on the primary U.S. nuclear war frequency for about an hour and a half, roughly between 1:30 a.m. and 3 a.m. Eastern Time. We had about 15 to 20 emergency action messages transmitted back to back, which is very unusual and highly concerning. And today we have a large number of US P-8 Poseidon sub-hunters off the US East Coast. You can see one off the coast of Long Island and Cape Cod, one off the coast of Virginia, and one off the coast of Florida. So they're providing full sub-hunting coverage of the entire eastern seaboard. And what's very interesting is that these sub-hunters were flying east to west and really low. And when they fly east to west, that means they're looking south, okay, towards Venezuela, essentially. Here's the actual live flight tracker. You can see this one sub-hunter here off the coast of Cape Cod doing this east to west pattern here, flying really low. Very, very unusual, very concerning. Here's another sub-hunter off the coast of Virginia doing a lot of loops. And then there was one down here off of Florida doing a lot of loops as well. We also have a B-52 nuclear bomber airborne, and we have a U.S. military VIP that just left Colorado Springs and appears to be heading to D.C. So it sounds like Trump is calling all the generals to the White House this weekend, because I think Trump is going to do a strike, another big strike. The strike on the drug boat was just an introduction. I think this weekend we're going to see a bigger strike, so he's calling the generals from Colorado Springs to D.C. for this weekend's show. And Poland announced that 2 more Russian suicide drones violated Polish airspace yesterday in connection with the large Russian attack on Ukraine. Now, if you remember, before Labor Day, a Russian drone flew 60 miles into Poland and exploded. And yesterday, the Polish president visited the White House and met with Trump for an unscheduled, unplanned visit. So that is very, very serious. And during Trump's meeting with the Polish president, Trump teased at deploying more U.S. troops into Poland, or at least keeping the existing troops there. He said that with Poland, we're very happy. If anything, we'll put more there if they want, but they've long wanted to have a larger presence. They'll be staying in Poland. We're very much aligned with Poland, okay? So Trump showing his solidarity with Poland. And the Netherlands Ministry of Defense posted this press release yesterday stating that F-35's were scrambled over a potential threat to NATO territory. And I'm assuming this is related to Poland. It says Shahed drones launched by Russia posed a threat to NATO territory overnight from Tuesday to Wednesday. Consequently, the Combined Air Operations Center in Udom alerted 2 of the F-35's stationed in Poland by the Netherlands. The fighter jets immediately took off. The intention was to destroy the Russian unmanned projectiles as they crossed an Allied border. However, the deployment of weapons proved unnecessary. For operational security reasons, the Ministry of Defense will not provide further details. The Dutch F-35's have been securing NATO airspace over Eastern Europe since last Sunday. Okay, so F-35's in Poland had to be scrambled because of these 2 Russian drones that flew into Polish airspace. They don't want to release any details, but they did say that they did not have to shoot them down. And in the past, Poland has not wanted to shoot these drones down because they're afraid that it would create debris, and the debris could land on people's homes. So maybe they just let the drones crash into an open area. I don't know. And a Polish Catholic monk was arrested in Belarus, accused by Belarus of spying for Poland. Belarus claims he was trying to gather intel on the upcoming Zapad 2025 exercises that are going to be taking place on the border of Poland and the Baltics. And Trump will be signing an executive order today to change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Wow, guys, it doesn't get any more plain as that, okay? Literally, our Department of Defense will be called the Department of War. Wow, what a sign of the times we're living in. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this video, which is Just In Case Holsters. Guys, if you own a firearm, a knife, or you just want to have a cool leather wallet, check out Just In Case Holsters. I have been working with them just in the last few weeks, and I personally have spoken to the owner several times. He is a solid guy. He's a Navy veteran, and he makes all these holsters by hand, and these holsters are just absolutely beautiful. He sells chest holsters, he sells hip holsters, he sells holsters for knives, and they're all handmade in the USA by him. So very high quality stuff, and he has provided me with a 10% discount code, which is just NYPrepper in all caps lock. I'm going to put a link in the description below to his website with the promo code, but it's justincaseholsters.com, and the promo code is NYPrepper, all caps lock. So check him out. And Putin was talking today about the situation in Ukraine. He said that no one has spoken to Russia seriously about security guarantees, warning that any foreign troops in Ukraine will be treated as legitimate targets. He also said Moscow would be the best place for a meeting with Zelensky. He said if any troops appear there, especially now during the fighting, we assume they will be legitimate targets for destruction. Wow. Okay, so Putin saying any foreign troops in Ukraine will be destroyed by the Russian military. He also said Ukraine is requesting contact with Russia. I am prepared for such contact, but I do not see much point in it. It will be impossible to reach an agreement with Ukraine. That's what he said, okay? So no agreement with Ukraine. He said it's going to be impossible, okay? He also said that there's no point in the presence of foreign military personnel in Ukraine after an agreement on sustainable peace. So Putin does not want foreign military personnel in Ukraine. He also claimed that if Ukraine wanted to join the EU, that's Ukraine's choice, and Russia would not be opposed to that. They're only opposed to Ukraine joining NATO. And the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, said Russia invited Zelensky to Moscow to talk, not to capitulate, claiming they see a light at the end of the tunnel on ending the war. Okay, wow. And Iranian officials have warned that their armed forces are on heightened alert and have prepared a significantly strengthened military posture, emphasizing that the likelihood of a conflict with Israel is very high. We are trying to prevent the region from entering another war, but the possibility of a war between Iran and the Zionist regime is very high, Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh was quoted by the semi-official Tasnim news agency as saying. The Iranian outlet also reported Iran's senior commander, Major General Ali Abdullahi, saying the armed forces are better prepared and equipped with greater achievements than before the recent imposed war. Wow, very concerning. So Iran is on heightened military posture now. And the U.S. Coast Guard said on Wednesday that a pair of Chinese research ships, the Zhongshan Dazhou GD and the GD, were spotted operating in the Arctic Ocean on the U.S. extended continental shelf near Alaska between Sunday and Tuesday. The extended continental shelf refers to the portion of the continental shelf extending 230 miles from Alaska's coastline. For comparison, the U.S. territorial sea and exclusive economic zone extend up to 13.8 and 230 miles from the coastline, respectively. So they had two research ships right on the border of our exclusive economic zone in Alaska in the Arctic Ocean. The Zhongshan Dazhou GD was spotted operating approximately 230 miles north of Utqiagvik on Alaska's northern coast on Sunday, while the GD was seen about 260 miles northwest of Utqiagvik 2 days later, according to the U.S. Coast Guard. So very, very concerning. And here we have pictures of these Chinese research vessels. Here's one of them right there. You can see radomes on the top of it. Okay, so they're definitely doing some electronic warfare eavesdropping here on our military. And then here's the other one. Okay. And the Pentagon has approved the use of Naval Station Great Lakes to the north of Chicago, which serves as the sole basic training base for the U.S. Navy by the Department of Homeland Security for immigration operations, with upwards of 300 agents with both DHS and ICE expected to utilize the base for planning, logistics, and housing, as a large-scale arrest campaign for illegal immigrants will reportedly begin next week in Chicago. Okay, so ICE and DHS are going to be using a U.S. Navy base to detain and house illegal aliens. They're going to do a massive roundup of illegal aliens in Chicago. And Russian strategic bombers malfunctioned, failing to launch missiles during a massive strike on Ukraine. During the large-scale missile and drone attack on Ukraine on the night of September 2nd to 3rd, 3 Russian strategic bombers reportedly failed to launch their missiles due to technical problems. According to Militarny, citing the Telegram channel Dossier Spy, the Tu-160 Ivan Yargin could not fire its missiles because of a malfunction in the launch mechanism. Another Tu-160, the Alexei Plokov, was struck by lightning during the mission, damaging the cockpit glazing and forcing the crew to abort the flight and return to base. A third aircraft of an unspecified type reportedly failed to take off from Engels Air Base. The cause of the malfunction remains unknown. The failure of 2 bombers has been interpreted as a possible sign of the Russian defense industry's difficulties in properly maintaining its strategic fleet. Analysts also suggest that intensive use and the exhaustion of critical components may contribute to such malfunctions. Wow, so the Tu-160s are one of Russia's main, actually that's their top bomber for nuclear war. That's part of their nuclear deterrent, okay? These are their latest and greatest bombers, better than their Tu-95s. These are their blackjack bombers. They look similar to our B-1 Lancers, okay? They're a supersonic bomber. They're very heavy, and that's their main bomber for nuclear war. So one of them hit by lightning, one of them failed to launch a missile. Wow. And according to new information from the Swedish Transport Agency, GPS disruptions over the Baltic Sea are rising sharply. In 2025, 733 incidents were reported, averaging 3 per day, compared to 495 in 2024. Data show the disturbances come from Russian territory, so it looks like a 30% increase in GPS disruptions this year. And Ukrainian drones have once again attacked the Ryazan oil refinery, one of Russia's largest oil refineries with a capacity of up to 18 million tons per year. The refinery is on fire again. And Dearborn Heights, Michigan Police Department has introduced America's first ever police badge and uniform patch in Arabic writing. Wow. And NASA is looking for proposals from commercial enterprises interested in building the first lunar fission reactor. That's a nuclear reactor, guys. The agency's draft announcement for partnership proposals, or AFPP, calls for ideas on creating a 100 kilowatt at minimum nuclear reactor on the moon that could be ready to launch by 2029. So that's a small nuclear reactor. A large nuclear reactor here in the U.S. typically generates several megawatts, okay, typically like 1 or 2 megawatts per reactor. And this one, they want just 100 kilowatts, so that's a tenth of the size of a typical reactor here in the U.S. So it looks like the U.S. is pushing forward with their plans to build a base on the moon. Why else would you need a nuclear reactor on the moon? Okay, but that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight, closer to midnight Eastern time, with live coverage. Very concerning news about the F-35's going to Puerto Rico and Venezuela, buzzing one of our warships. Very, very serious. So I do think that's going to kick off very soon. I think Trump is going to start bombing the cartels, and then eventually it's going to lead to a full-scale decapitation strike and regime change mission in Venezuela. I think he wants to get rid of Maduro, get rid of the cartels, clean up Venezuela, and also invite American oil companies afterwards to explore the oil in Venezuela. Venezuela has one of the largest oil deposits in the world behind the Middle East, okay, rich with oil. So that would drop our gas prices and fuel prices here in the U.S. if we got access to that oil. But until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.